Welcome to the Ron and John Show, brought to you by Veterans Lending Group, and I'm Ron.
And I am John. This is the Ron and John Show. Hey, at the Ron and John Show, we're known coast to coast like butter and toast. We can make ISIS surrender or die, or make even the nerdiest guy look kind of fly. We can drink like we've been singing all night long, and we can sing like we've been drinking all night long. So if you're looking for a good time, don't you delay. Tune into the Ron and John Show. Me and this Ranger, we lead the way. Boom!
Boom. And welcome back to another Ron and John Show. I'm Ron, and we've got...
And I'm John, yeah. Good to see you, brother. Good. Here we are.
Here we are.
Our 30th show, man.
Can you believe that?
30th show.
That means 30 weeks. But
yeah,
essentially, I mean, that's a long time.
yeah, 30 weeks, man. It's been quite a journey here, you know, and what we've done, you know, in terms of the military leaders we've talked to, the veterans that have gone out and done well post-military service, other, you know, kind of elites in the sporting world that support the military and everything, even military spouses we've had on here, man. It's just been phenomenal.
And the list keeps going on. You know, even, you know, we had John Schneider, GM for the Seahawks, you know, and then the looking at some of the other guests that we have lined up, it's incredible. You know, definitely.
Hey, by the way, after the show last week, I decided to check and see how much money John Schneider gets paid. You know, somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 million a year. You know, so. I don't think he's living in the chopper, the Chad.
No. If anything, he's doing some flybys or something.
Hey, but well deserved. You know, I mean, he made his way in the world, and just it was great hearing his story, and then how he made it up through the ranks, and he listened like you know, anybody that is successful listened to those that came before him. He identified some mentors. He followed them. And look where he's at now. You know, I mean, you know, they lost last Sunday night, but it was a great game. But they've got the best record in the NFC. So hats off to him and hats off to the Seahawks, even though I hate them, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, go Hawks. But, you know, that's the thing is you know, seeing the parallels, right? From from the NFL to the military, just like we talked, and, you know, us dubbing him the you know, the senior NCO there. He got a little offended. We had to check him real quick, though.
Yes.
But, but it was a compliment, right? But just what a phenomenal show, and it was great to see, and looking forward to the ones we have coming up next there. So, but
you know, thinking of the last 30 shows too, Ron, I'm just so excited that, you know, we've done collaborative efforts, you know, with D Hicks at NCOPD Live, you know, Mark Hurricane Halliburton freestyle every day for everybody. You know, Breck Live, you know, just how we, you know, in an environment where we're, because of COVID and everything, a lot of people are doing these kinds of things. These podcasts and webinars and stuff, that we share the space with these others and continue to, you know, get after and promote each other is just awesome.
You know, the continuous theme that I always hear, and that we always hear from our guests, is, man, that was fun. Man, we had a great time. That was one of the better ones that we've done. The great questions and stuff like that. So, you know, it's that's always good to hear as well. That we're not you know, screwing the pooch or, you know, hitting the football the wrong way.
Absolutely. And you know, the other thing I like, Ron, is how we have been kind of our show has been joint. You know, I mean, we've had Army leaders on, we've had Air Force leaders on, we've had Marine Corps leaders. Scott Stalker, we've had on twice. I mean, that's right. You know, shoot, we just 2 weeks ago were at his headquarters, had him live on the show.
Old fancy pants.
Old fancy pants, a 2-time. But you know, we haven't focused on, you know, those warriors that are forged by the sea, and that being the United States Navy, the greatest Navy in the world. That's right. And in terms of this long-term power competition, probably the warriors that will continue to keep those existential threats away from either coast of us and everything. So, you know, I'm excited tonight that, you know, we're going to be able to talk some Navy stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one that we've been talking about. That's man, we've got to infuse something there as well. And I'm excited. I'm excited to learn. That's obviously a component that's foreign to me. Try to stay as much as possible. But as well as for a lot of our listeners as well to really understand not only from a Navy standpoint, but who our guest is and what their responsibilities and roles are and how they're protecting us now.
Yeah. So, this guy we got tonight is a personal friend of mine. We first met when I was the U.S. Forces Korea Command Senior Enlisted Leader. He came, him and his wife, Evelyn, who are great friends of Sandra and mine, they came and he took Naval Forces Korea. And dude, let me tell you something. A guy that has been in the water his whole life, except he has done a ground tour in Afghanistan. He's one of those few sailors that have actually done a combat tour in Afghanistan. But he showed up, and within the week that he showed up, he was out doing a manga dive with me, man, doing a mini ranger school. And he did 3 of these exercises with me, and he really got the sailors on the peninsula fired up to do the manga dives. And then, when he went on after that and was the command master chief in Bahrain, with 5th Fleet and everything. And now he is the Pacific Fleet Master Chief in charge of everything in the Pacific, and just a great warrior leader. And as a matter of fact, he was one of the finalists to be SEAC number 4. And the first time we've ever had a sailor that has been a finalist to be SEAC number 4. So just a great guy to hang out with. I'm going to ask him how he's doing and everything, but I'm sure we'll talk some soju stories that we had from Korea. So should we bring him out?
Let's bring him on out. Bring him out. Bring him out.
There he is.
Hey, there he is.
What's up, brother?
Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. This is not my forte. This is not my social media, getting out on a podcast. But my buddy right there, John Troxel, he asks, I follow. I go anywhere he says. Like he was saying earlier there on the intro, I arrived in Korea and he said, hey, I need you to get out and help me lead this effort with this manga dive. I didn't know what it was, but I know. And I've been safe following John for a number of years. I'll continue to do so. I'll come out here on the social media here. Enjoy on the podcast. I've enjoyed watching from afar, and I just hope that I can live up to the billing and have a good conversation with
Jim, I can tell you this right now is that if you made it through the manga dive, number one, there's a reason he picked you to go through it. And because you've been through it, there's a reason you're here now.
Hey, let me tell you something about this guy. So first of all, this guy is built like a linebacker from the University of Oklahoma. He's this big grizzly bear looking dude. And one of the manga dives, we had a mud pit grappling, where it was squad against squad. And all of us seniors, we were squad mentors or platoon mentors or something like that. And so we had to get in with the squad that we were, humping all over the mountains with. And the minute they blew the whistle and we started going at it, I'm in the middle of this mud pit. Because, what do you do when you want to win a scrap? You dominate the center of the octagon or the mud pit. I got in the center, and all of a sudden, this grizzly bear was coming at me. And I was like, oh, shit, this is going to get ugly bad. And fortunately, I had some little fellers trying to help me out. They were like little muskrats on Jim's back, and he was slinging them off and everything. Hey, but it all worked out. I didn't lose, but I did get a separated shoulder out of it. So thanks, Jim. I still remember you and our dang chingus from Korea that helped throw me out of the mud pit and tore my shoulder up. But it was all in fun, right?
It certainly was meant to be in fun, and it just that's the competitiveness, and those of us that serve, on our who we are. We're not passive. Yeah. We get in there. We want to win. And even when we first all kind of entered in there was a little bit of a gentleman's thing. Hey, let's do this, let's do that, let's make sure this is a good show. But hey, the whistle blew, man, and we slept or ate in the day. We just wanted to win, and I enjoyed the camaraderie and all the things that came out of the manga dive. Mud pit is one of those things that every now and then, someone will post a video online. Memories, but Yeah, I distinctly remember it. I distinctly remember the first one. Ray Devens didn't like the idea that, you know, that I'd gotten him out of the mud pit. Make sure that there was a match at my house.
Yeah.
Evelyn, you know, what a trooper Evelyn was. When we moved there to Korea, like you said, right afterwards, you know, we're on that 𝘠𝘬𝘬𝘬, and the night after we got back, you know, we had a party at my house, and Evelyn had to make sure the house was ready, and she's just always been such a great partner and a trooper, and if you're looking for someone else to bring on the show, you need to bring Evelyn. You know,
Hey,
my wife,
we'll keep that in mind, man.
you know,
Because yeah, you know, I think we'd have to have longer than an hour for Evelyn, because you know, she'll go across the globe on what's going on, you know, in the free world and everything. So, but yeah, it's just great to have you on here, brother. So Jim, just give us a quick update. You know, COVID is really getting after it. How are the sailors doing? You know, for those that don't know, Jim's responsible for the entire Pacific region of the world, 52% of the Earth's area. And so how are the sailors doing with COVID, man?
It's busy out here, you know, and COVID is difficult, and it's a challenge. And when it first hit us, I would say that COVID was extremely difficult. It was almost, and us being able to, you know, to continue with our efforts. But we've put COVID now into a sequence of other planning factors. It's one more planning factor that we have to consider before we conduct operations. It's no longer a barrier. It's not a barricade. It doesn't paralyze us. It's still a challenge, and all the things that it takes to remove it as a simple planning factor. That's a lot of our sailors. We really are.
Yeah.
Be it from pre-deployment sequester prior to going on deployment to make sure that everybody's healthy and clean. Before we put them in the confines of that small ship, you know, the boundaries of the hull of a ship, you know, are pretty confined, and we want to make sure everyone's clean. There's no social distancing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
really on board a ship. So we're trying to be very careful there before we send them out forward. And then once we get them out there, you know, we're very careful about where we let them pull into to get any kind of R&R time. You know, you saw the USS Stout come back, you know, with record-setting number of days at sea. You know, that's tough business. But it's certainly weighing on our sailors, but it's not something that they can't handle. I have utmost confidence in their ability to do so. These are sailors that are cut from the same DNA and the fabric of our nation, of the heroes that went before us. And the sailors that set sail ships in World War II, you know, they set sail and they came back when the war was over or when their ship got sunk underneath them. You know, and the sailors we have today are cut from that same legacy. And they're out there getting it done for you, John. So, you know, rest in your retirement, feel comfortable. You got sailors out there beating the away team and keeping any competitor that thinks they want to get after business with us to think about another damn day, because this ain't the one. We got them out there.
Boom. Yeah. Well, as I always say, man, you know, I say this wherever Ron and I go, you know, and you know, we're the show known coast to coast like butter and toast, and we get around the world. And you know, every time I get an opportunity as a retiree and Ron as a veteran, we always say to guys like you and to all of those sailors of Pacific Fleet, thank you for defending our freedom, brother, and our way of life.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for everything that you've given us, you know, throughout your career, man. John, you're a legend, brother, worldwide, and as you said, you know, coast to coast. You know, I got Hollywood to Bollywood, you know, brother, but you're known the world over. A lot of us, you know, have the luxury of walking in a very wide path that you plowed before us, and God bless you, and we're going to get after it and do the things that you've asked us to do. Don't worry.
Awesome.
That's awesome. You know, the just for our audience and you know, edification is what is it that you're 52% of, you know, of the world, right? I mean, is where the theater is. Is that from offense, is it defense, cyber? Because John and I have been traveling around and seeing a whole bunch of different commands and stuff. So your area is it? What is that area? That scope of responsibility for 𝘵𝘠𝘦𝘬𝘭𝘺?
Well, the Navy Marine Corps team is going to go all over, and we're going to cross all domains. So that's on the sea, under the sea, above the sea. It's going to be out onto the land, through the littorals. Yeah, certainly it's going to involve space as well as cyber. We're involved in all aspects necessary to maintain maritime dominance and wherever that's going to be required, Ron. So we cover all of those facets. And as I described, that's the Eastern Pacific into the Western Pacific, over into the Indian Ocean. We cover all those, and you would be very, very proud of all the things that our sailors and Marines are getting after. I'm in awe daily with, how they spread themselves out across that giant theater. That's an enormous, amount of water that we cover, and they do a tremendous job. We got this thing wired down. You can trust in that.
Hey, so Ron, I got to tell you, so Jim reciprocated with a 𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠 of his own, naval style, when we had a major exercise in Korea, and he took me down to Busan, and we got on the USS Blue Ridge, which is kind of the flagship for 7th Fleet, right, Jim?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and he had me there, and I stayed the night on the ship, and I told him, and Sam was down there with us, our good buddy, and Chris Addington, another retiree, and I said, hey, I don't want the chief's berthings or anything like that. Put me in general population. And brother, they stuck me in that 6th rack thing, so I had a sailor above me, a young E3. I had a sailor below me, young E3, and I was in a middle rack, man. And when I would stick my hand up like this, my pinky finger could touch the rack above me. Now, these are young sailors, man, and they're in their 20s, some of them teenagers. I was in my 50s, and so my trips to the head are quite frequent throughout the night. And every time I'd crawl out of that damn thing, I would wake all the other 5 shipmates of mine up. And so the next day, we're getting dressed, getting our uniforms on. And dude, this is how small the quarters are right there in the berthings, is that I'm trying to get my dang drawers on and everything after getting out of the shower, and me and some sailor are touching ass cheeks here, trying to get dressed, man. And I'm like, damn. And then finally the kid looks at me and says, something, Sergeant Major? We really think you'd be a lot more comfortable up in the chief's berthing. So they were like, get this old asshole out of here, because he's cramping our style a little bit. But I will tell you, what that did for me is, and Jim, I still thank you for doing that. I gained such an appreciation for life as a sailor out at sea. And now that was just a flagship. I got on some other vessels as my time as a SEAC, aircraft carriers, destroyers, and stuff like that. And I just gained an appreciation for how life is out there. And, for us, man, as old airborne Rangers, you bivouac outside, you can social distance all you want. Yeah. But when you're in a 5x5 space with 5 other dudes trying to get their dang skivvies on, man, that is how you build relationships. So yeah, but again, that's Jim. My question is, as we continue to move forward here and do the things that you describe in terms of providing for our freedom and our way of life, the Navy has to be expeditionary. They've got to continue to get out and be forged by the sea. And I heard a great quote the other day from a commanding officer of a Navy vessel, and he said, "A sailor's place is on the ship, and the ship's place is at sea." So as we look forward to this, how do you shape the thought process and the focus of brand new sailors that come in, whether it's Great Lakes or wherever they come from, and all of a sudden they come out into the commands and everything? How do you get them ready physically, mentally, and emotionally to make sure that they're prepared to, for this life as an expeditionary sailor?
Well, to begin with, I want to finish that quote, so yeah. belong on ships, ships belong at sea, and land is nothing but a navigational hazard. And Joe, I'll start with getting sailors' minds wrapped around what they need to be focused on. I think is honestly a lot simpler than we give it credit to sometimes.
Yeah.
If you stick with some basics, the people that join our armed forces today volunteer. They want to be here. They want to be here, and they want to get after this way of life and protect our American way of life. And what we need to be able to do is describe the operating environment that we're going to go put them into. And once we really do a good job of describing what that operating environment is going to be like, and the importance of being expeditionary, as you were stating, when we're talking about a near peer competitor, or even in today's age, where technology, can level the playing field really, really rapidly. And technology is a lot more available than it has been in years past. So even with non-state actors or violent extremists, if you give them the right technology, they can level the playing with you pretty quickly. So with a peer competitor or somebody with the right technology, they can change our behaviors fairly quickly. And we need to be expeditionary in that way, that we're not always going to be able to define the lines of battle. I'm not going to be able to say that, hey, nothing's going to happen beyond this advanced line any longer.
Right.
I don't have luxury. They can reach out and touch us, and we can reach out and touch them, and we need to be prepared at all times. And you don't have a luxury to ever relax and get back on the heels of your feet. You need to be prepared at all times. So you need to be appropriately postured, not just be ready, mentally, physically, and emotionally, but be appropriately postured and ready for what that's going to look like. I believe that when you have that kind of a conversation with them, and they understand the reason why you need to be like that, I think they get it. I talk with them about, like, you've seen the Rocky movies, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who's going to win that fight. You got Rocky Balboa can't get up, Apollo Creed can't get up. It's all kind of cool drama. Makes a good movie, but ain't the kind of damn fight I want to be in. None of us want to be in that kind of damn fight. I want to be in a Rocky III fight, where Mr. T was knocking people out for the heck of it. That's the fight I want. I want Mike Tyson stole your pay-per-view money fight. That's the fights I want to get into. And that's a sailor's fight. That's what they all want to get into. They want to get into a fight where we overmatch and we dominate. And we send everything anybody's got that wants to come at us to the bottom of the ocean. Sailors get it, man. We just got to be able to explain to them what the operating environment's going to look like, what they need to do to be successful, and they go figure out the rest of the stuff. They got it. They know what they want to get after. So I don't think it's as challenging as we think it's going to be. We got to convince them to get after something. They volunteer to be here. They want to be here. They want to get after things. They just got to be given the purpose, and they'll get after it, man. That's what I found to be successful, and I hold true. Man, I get out there. We had Abraham Lincoln coming back from deployment a while back. They had a record like 8 months on deployment. But it was very much looking like we might turn them around. I went on board there and talked with those sailors, and the adults all understood what the question was going to be, and the adults all understood that what the answer was going to be. There was a strong likelihood they might get called back. And as daunting as that might sound, I'll tell you who was more worried about that prospect, and it wasn't the sailors on board. It was those people in the Middle East that want to start some shit. That's who. So, sailors get it, and they know they bring a big old whack, and nobody wants to deal with us. And again, that's why we're the away team, and we're always posed to go get after that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That's it. It does, and I can definitely see where and why you were on that short list for SEAC 4 there.
They made a good decision. Left me in Hawaii, and he got probably a better leader in CZ Clone. So I think it worked out for the best for me and Evelyn and CZ as well. So awesome to him, and a thank you for the compliment, though, Ron. Just to be considered in the category with those people, and to sit in a room with them and discuss the importance of our national security and how we're going to get after that going into the future, and to be someone that's considered in those conversations, man, I was just floored and honored to have been there. I'm certainly am. Thank you though for the compliment, Ron.
Absolutely. And you know, that's the thing is that that never ceases to amaze me in the travels I get to do with John is and see and meet with, you know, leaders he's worked with, such as yourself, and that have become personal friends, and see why. And you know, one thing that's been consistent with the leaders that I've seen that John has influenced is that type of character, is that saying, you know, it's just been a privilege to be, you know, considered. You know, like one of the new things that I say now is when John touts his record, you know, shit, he's 5-4. You know, most teams is not a winning streak, but here it is, right? So my question to you is that, you know, as you've gone across to your, you know, through your career now and had these opportunities, what would you share with leaders that are coming up, that will one day in their career, you know, have to compete in a different way than they're accustomed to, and let's say that they don't get selected, and you know, what words of influence and motivation would you give them to not change their perspective on what that job is, regardless of that outcome?
Great question, Ron, and one that comes up quite often with folks that's in our line of work is, you know, they're trying to move across echelon and move into jobs of greater responsibility and complexity. That question comes up, and the truth of the matter is, and I think Joanne Bass said it on here on this show a little while back, you know, is that once you got to that level and you're being considered for the competition, you're already qualified. You've already done all the things necessary to be considered and be fully qualified. At that point, it's about a personality match. And, you know, for you and the commander that's making that decision, you know, for you to fit in, that he or she sees you best suited, you know, for helping carry his message and for helping translate the message from the deck plate back up to them. And it's not a knock against you in any way. If somebody weren't to be selected, I have a similar batting record as John here. It hasn't changed the size of my head. It's still enormous. So I still get back after and function just as I was doing before. And that would be my message to anybody. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing just fine, and you're doing just exactly what you need to be doing. And all the things that you need to do to work up to that level is, you know, to continue to take on jobs and seek out opportunities that give you increased responsibility, job scope and complexity, you know, that keeps showing you new things and that you continue to learn from it. And some of our senior enlisted leaders, they keep going after their comfort zone and they want to stay where they feel most comfortable, and they're never going to grow from that. And so you need to take an opportunity to try other things. I was just talking with a senior enlisted leader the other day about how to set yourself on a path with your goals. And it's great. Start right now at your first command at the 05 level or what have you it is, and you set yourself a goal where you want to go. And that's just like you're getting ready to head out on that hike. Now you're going to go up that mountain, and you've set yourself a goal where you want to plant that flag. Now you can put your head down, you know, and just trudge ahead and get up there, and you may meet that goal. But it'll be a lot better if you pick your head up and look around as you're hiking up that mountain and enjoy the view. And as you go up, sometimes you'll see another vantage. You head off into that direction, and you grow in a way that you never expected. And you find out that there's other viewpoints and other places that you want to go. And you just don't know everything you know until you start the climb. So get after it. Enjoy it while you can be in it, and learn as much as you can. And continue to stretch and force yourself to learn and become better and better. And I think that those things then will have you at that moment, arriving where you need to be. And hopefully that commander is smart enough to see it and selects you. And if not, go back and keep doing all the great things that you're doing. Be proud of where you're at, man. And it's not ever about achieving a position or a title. You know, it's about the things that we accomplish while we're in these jobs. Margaret Thatcher said, you know, that we should strive to do something not strive to be someone. Let's do things. When you're sitting around with your grandkids, John, your grandkids, aren't as impressed about you being senior enlisted advisor to the chairman as they are about your stories and what you did along the way in your journey through, your 35 plus years in the Army. They want to hear about all those things. So imagine what you're doing if you're talking to your grandkids. Build a story, build a life that's worth talking about. And I think you're going to be a lot richer when it's done anyway. Long answer.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's great, Jim. Thanks.
So if we look at the 5 finalists for SEAC 4, obviously 𝘧𝗪𝘂𝗻𝘆 from the Air Force, he's the current SEAC, but Scott Stalker and Paul McKenna from the Marine Corps, Dan Daly from the United States Army, Jim Honea from the United States Navy. That's 5 pretty heavy pipe hitting senior enlisted leaders. So let's change the dynamic, Jim. Let's put you on the spot a little bit here. Let's say that you same 5 finalists are not going to interview with the chairman, but you guys are going to get into a cage, and the last man standing is going to be the SEAC. So tell me where you think you finish, and then tell me out of those 4, who's going to be your biggest challenge?
Man, I got the belt, so I wouldn't have gotten in the cage if I didn't have the confidence in myself to begin with. But all those guys are pretty damn scrappy in their own ways. I wouldn't want to sell any of them short on what they would have brought to that fight, but it would have been enjoyable to watch. I'm certain. But being the SEAC isn't a battle of the bulk. It ain't about who's strong. I think we came out with the right person. I'm extremely watch CZ get after things. I talked with sailors that he's met. They're all real excited and impressed to have spoken with him. They talk about him being authentic, and that he was someone that they really could see themselves in. That he inspired. And so we got a great person in the job to be SEAC for, and I'm certainly happy just to be able to call him a friend and a brother.
Absolutely.
Thing, man.
Awesome.
I kind of dodged that one, I know, brother.
I read between all those lines.
Okay, let me give you a more serious question. So we know the 4 basic tenets of being a good sailor are professional seamanship, discipline watch standards, everybody's a firefighter, and then the ability to do damage control. I think this latest incident with, I think it was the Bonhomme Richard, I think, that had the fire, and the performance of the sailors in terms of combating that fire and the flooding that was on there was just phenomenal. But, I'm going to ask you a hard question here, because one of the things Ron and I focus on as veterans is not being someone that's passing judgment on the current active duty force in the Guard and Reserve, that somebody is here to support and enable that force. I really got a little concerned when I would see people that were out of the military that were criticizing what happened there, and does that have any effect on morale when with sailors, when they see people that's come before them, they're going to criticize them for how they handled a catastrophe? And like I said, in that one alone, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought the sailors did a phenomenal job in getting after that and protecting their ship.
Yeah, well, certainly, if there is a veteran out there that those sailors look up to and respect, and to see them spit at them, that is insulting, and it certainly would be, counter to good morale for them. I mean, just as like it would be to any one of us.
Yeah.
Someone that we idolize and looked up to, that were to turn around and tell us that we're less than what we're trying to be, that would be, it would be hurtful. And where it's warranted, I guess it's appropriate. I don't think it was appropriate in this case in any way. The Bonhomme Richard were tasked with an impossible situation in the way things kind of manifested themselves. And to protect the sailors that were on the firefighting teams, they made a decision to evacuate the ship so they could recollect and they could maintain exits. So they had an ability to have a strategy to exit the ship if they ever needed to again, because they were about to get surrounded by fire, and then they only had one option, that was to win. So they backed out and they gave themselves, a new rear support. They had ability then to go back in time and time again, and that was smart firefighting. That was a good tactical decision to give them the best chance for success, and then they did, and then those sailors kept after it. And I'm telling you, John, and if you're not aware, I'll share this with you and the audience here. That fire was in temperatures of above 1,000 degrees.
Wow.
Over 1,000 degrees in over for 4 days. Sailors are surrounded, almost 360 degrees by fire, as they continue to go in and combat fires and push it and fight it and completely in the dark, full of smoke, dark. You couldn't see where you're going. And the sailors are the ones that are having to lead everyone around to get in there and combat that fire. Along the way, you got compressed gas cylinders that are cooking off and whistling, through the air. And we're fortunate and blessed in many ways that no one got hurt, but also it was due to their technical competency, the character, and the courage of the sailors to get after the business. I mean, and it's something you could be proud of. There's a MM2 Jones. MM2 Jones wasn't on duty that day. He was sleeping in his barracks room across the way. He wakes up that morning and looks out his window and he saw a ship on fire. That guy didn't turn over in his rack and get a couple extra minutes, man. He put on his PT gear and ran as fast as he could to the ship. And within a couple minutes, he was in a firefighting ensemble in boots and had a breathing apparatus, and he was in there putting out the fire and getting after business. And I got story after story of heroes like this that they didn't hesitate to go fight for their ship and protect, their home, in things that they hold most sacred, and to give their commanders decision space on, what to do with that ship at the end of the day. I was just extremely impressed. When I went out to go visit that ship, I spoke to a small group of about a dozen sailors for an hour. And typically when I show up, hey brother, I got no loss of words. I get there, but I just sat there and listened. I was the audience that day. I went there to go be in the presence, of heroes and hear their stories. And it wasn't me coming there to deliver a message other than to say thank you. I was just completely impressed with them and their stories and how they got after that business and how they've just continued, on this legacy of who we are as sailors. We recently named an aircraft carrier after Doris Miller. Back at Pearl Harbor. And we're all pretty well known and understanding of what we've seen in the movies of Doris Miller coming up, while the ship is being bombed and Pearl Harbor is being attacked and he manned the machine gun. But John, he was also on firefighting teams, damage control teams. He was medevacing sailors off the ship to take them to safety. He evacuated the commanding officer off the ship to safety. He was one of the last people that actually evacuated the ship. He dove into the water time and time again to rescue sailors, that had been flung from the ship. Complete true hero, And the character that he demonstrated that day is the same character that our sailors on board 𝘵𝘠𝘠𝘠 demonstrated the day they were faced with, that terrifying fire that they fought for 4 days. I served on that ship. That was one of my ships, and to see her burn like that was emotional to me. And I served with some of my best friends in the Navy, and I served on that ship together. So incredibly impressed with them all. Thank you for bringing up the question, because I'm certainly proud to brag about all of them at any time I get a chance, and they're certainly worth bragging about. So thank you.
Hey, and Doris Miller was a cook, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. So
unbelievable.
Yeah.
But incredible gentleman. It's just every story I hear about him is just humbling. Just think about the character of that man and who he was, and I'm just incredibly impressed with that guy. And then I got to meet his family. They came out here when the Secretary of the Navy announced that we were going to name the aircraft carrier after him. And then Evelyn and I spent an afternoon with them at the beach and lunch. And they are salt of the earth, just good people, just like me, where I come from back in Texas, Oklahoma, and my family. And so I enjoyed hanging out with them and talking with them a lot. And just incredibly good people. And you can tell, that they come from the same stock as someone like Doris Miller.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've got a question here that I want to, let's see, what is something that you wish you knew when you enlisted in the Navy?
Oh, wow. There's a lot of things that I wish I was smarter about. Certainly some of them are maybe some that I wish I'd known from the time I enlisted. I would rather speak about a couple other things that I've learned along the way that I wish I knew better as a leader. And one of them was about humility. When I was a young E7 in the Navy, I was pretty proud of myself and my capability. And I was getting ready to transfer, and the E7 that was going to come in behind me, I didn't think was up to the mustard to believe me and take over all the things that I was doing. And I was right. I proved myself right, and he wasn't. And I felt pretty big about myself. But I had an opportunity to recognize that and have built up those competencies within my E6s. I could have spread that wealth around to help give him a better supporting cast, to help make sure that ship, that command, and those sailors have been in a better place if I could have put myself aside for a little bit. And it wasn't until after I was out of that situation that I realized that I needed to have a little bit more humility about myself and not worry about whether or not this guy was as good as me and he was going to do as good of a job as I ever did. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time. Big damn deal. I need to set this guy up for better success because that's how our organization gets better. That's one of the things I wish I'd have known and had a little bit more humility about. And the other was I joined this organization, not too long after John Troxell. And a lot of the people that I grew up with were Vietnam vets that were leading me and teaching me about how to be in the Navy. And I don't think that they had figured it out, that we are an all-volunteer force and that people that were joining our service today choose to be here. We weren't being drafted anymore. We were choosing to be here. And giving people that benefit of the doubt to start with, and starting with the person that's talking to me is a good person. I kind of grew up with the attitude of I start with no. Anytime you come ask me for a favor, I start with no, and you're going to have to convince me. And I would have been a happier person, much younger as a leader, if I would have started off understanding that younger, that the young men and women that work with me in the Navy volunteered to be here, and they're good people, and they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, and start from that base to begin with. I would have always been a happy person because once I switched that on my head, man, my life has been great. I've had a much greater time working in the Navy and serving with my shipmates than I did before. So to the question, I didn't answer exactly what I wish I'd have known when I joined. But that's certainly some things I wish I understood better as a leader as I was coming up. So
that's great.
Live a little bit. I appreciate.
So, Jim, you went off the beaten path for a little bit, and you did an individual augmentee tour in Afghanistan. Kind of a surface warfare or a shore duty. Most people do shore duty, in places like Washington, D.C. and everything. But you chose to go to one of the most, you chose to go to one of the most dangerous places on the planet. What was your thought process behind that in doing that?
Thank you, John. It's a good question. And so at the time, the individual augmentee stuff that we were providing to the Army largely, it was pretty new, and there was a lot of things that we were learning in the Navy about our sailors going and working as IAs, ad hoc units and stuff. And lots of times, it wasn't they were being looked after poorly. It's just, there's different service culture and all the right things, that we need to make sure it's documented appropriately and all those things. And we just knew that we needed to get smarter about it. And for one thing, and the opportunity rose, for me to go over there, or they were going to look for somebody, with my background to go over there to do that job. And I told the admiral I was working for that he didn't need to go look any further, that I was that guy. So, one, I knew that sailors need to be looked after, and if someone needs to do that, it might as well be me. And I was never going to look myself in the mirror knowing that I had walked away from something and somebody else got sent out to do. I mean, if the requirement's there and the responsibility's there and they need someone to do the duty, I've never shirked, I've never shied away, and I wasn't going to do it for that one either. So I got after it. And I also was recognizing that as we sent more and more sailors over there, that was going to be part of their life. That was going to be part of who they were. And if I wanted to be relevant to them and understand who they were and where they've been, I need to have experienced some of the same things they did. And so that was just one more of my thoughts in my process about accepting a volunteer job, because it certainly was at that moment anyway, it was still a volunteer thing. It may have come back around and I get voluntold, but at the time I was still volunteering to do so. I got a lot out of that year. I learned an incredible amount of working, with all services, for that year in Afghanistan, and thoroughly got a lot of good memories out of it, as well as some bad ones. But overall, it's not something I regret in any way, though, not at all.
Awesome.
Yeah, one thing that we talk about all the time, you've heard this, is the PME hard, right? That being physically, mentally, and emotionally tough, and not having a lot of experience with the Navy. And one thing that John talks about is just the enlisted corps, the NCO and Petty Officer Corps, that is the glue and obviously the backbone of military. In the Navy, on these ships or at shore, I've been able to get out and see what the other branches do, because John and I do it together. But when we talk about that PME hard, what does that culture look like for at least your command, if not the Navy? When we're talking about that culture, for example, that forget the rank that you said of that enlisted, that looked up, saw the fire, and just went and got after it, right? I mean, that's that culture that we're looking at.
Well, hey, so of course we have physical fitness requirements within the Navy as well. They're not necessarily geared around operating in a combat environment, but we want them to maintain a certain level of fitness and health, so that they are good, healthy people to begin with. And then we need them to be emotionally and mentally steady. So we want to continue to build on their intelligence, continue to build on their education, so that they're smarter and smarter. And we want to give them time to be emotionally well, to bond with their brothers and their sisters and their family, an opportunity to participate in the religious needs as necessary, and to give them time to invest back into themselves in all ways. Those are the things that's necessary to be healthy, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And all those things, in some ways or another, always find a way to reinvest back into the organization. If they're maintaining good physical health, that obviously is going to bring us a healthy person. Then they're going to be able to be a better shipmate to their shipmates, as well as if they're always working on their education, trying to make themselves smarter, and a better study of what we're getting after. That, of course, is going to make them wiser warriors, and emotionally, you got to be stable. You got to have everything under control. If you're too tired, you're too worn out, and that isn't always ample sleep. You got to have good rest and all those things that's necessary, so that you're focused when necessary. Because when it gets called upon, isn't the time for you to have been burning both ends of the candle. You got to have all those things in balance, because when you get called upon and you're in the battle, you don't know when you're going to get another break. So you got to be ready all the way around, and always invested in yourself, because a lot's going to be demanded of you once the call comes in. And our sailors understand that that's what's going to be asked of them. And like we were talking about with the 𝘲𝘪𝘵𝘠, it was 4 days. And that wasn't just 𝘲𝘪𝘵 sailors. We had sailors from the entire waterfront that came to that effort to help and get after those things. And that was all day, all night, to get after that. And that takes you to be physically ready and mentally and emotionally ready. You can be the best possible and be focused when called upon. And that could be in all kinds of domains. It's not just in a combat physical domain. The same thing's going to happen to somebody that's in a cyber domain. They got to be able to stay up.
Yeah.
And they got to be able to engage mentally and stay locked in and not lose focus across the boundaries. Those things are necessary. Resilience is important. We had a few years back, we had some ships operating the 𝘴𝘩𝘠𝘵 that were shot at by some Houthi rebels. And time again, those sailors went through their TTPs, and they went, they followed their procedures, and they didn't ever lose their cool. They executed exactly what they saw on their weapon systems and took care of their business, and never got frightened or lost their cool about it. Time and time again. And we sent them back up to when they got Winchester, get reloaded, get back in, and they never lost their cool. They're always ready to respond. And that, is the operating environment. When you describe that to them, they perfectly understand the need to be PME hard, as you described. Oftentimes it gets translated, just to the infantry.
Right. Yeah.
But they are the weapon system. That infantryman is the weapon system himself. On board the ship, they're operating a weapon system. But we still need you, to be physically, mentally, and emotionally ready, because I need you to lock in. The hard part isn't always keeping the body going. Your body will go, man. But keeping your mind locked in and keeping it going and proving to yourself time and time again you can do more. That's building in the confidence necessary to take on any opponent. That's a long answer, Ron. I don't.
No, that's great.
Yeah. So just to add a comment on there. So when, I went to Great Lakes to visit, the recruit training there, and Sean Isbell hosted me there. He was another good friend of ours, and they put me in that firefighting gear, and that was no joke. I mean, that stuff was heavy as shit. And then when you're talking about manning a hose, and then they took me into the kind of the crucible exercise they do with that ship simulator that has fire and flooding in it. I said, this is some serious business right here that our men and women, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, have to be ready to get after. So thanks for bringing that up, brother. Ron, should we hit Jim with some rapid fire now?
Let's do it, brother. Squeeze one off.
All right. So we're getting down to the end of the show here, Jim. So we're going to ask some questions, not about Fleet Master Chief 𝘲𝘠𝘕, but about Jim 𝘲𝘠𝘕. Now, we spent a lot of time in Korea. We had some great times together. And one of the things we focused on there was building the ROC U.S. coalition. And because of that kind of building that we did and the bonds we built, the ROCs gave you a nickname of Big Sexy. All right. Can you kind of talk the audience how you got this nickname Big Sexy, man?
Well, you get really good nicknames like that, like you get all really good nicknames. It's ones that you say you don't want. So it started with an evening with my wife at a command function, and we returned to the safety and the confines of the Troxel household. So we're at Casa de Troxel, where I thought it was a friendly environment, and my wife decided to whip her hair around a little bit and put a little cha-cha on my step. So I got a little jig, and John got a good chuckle out of it. And I won't name names. I'll let them call themselves out that started the name, but they oh, look at you, get after big sexy.
Yeah.
And then I made the ultimate mistake by saying, okay, this ends here. I don't ever want to hear so. And, well, and so from then on, I was big sexy wherever we went. Until this day, our good Chingu 𝘬𝘠𝘠𝘬𝘠. Every time I talk to him, it's big sexy. Thank you, John.
Sandra says hello.
Sandra says, "Hey, that was me."
So
she just commented. Yeah.
Prime is Shorty Trox, Sandra, woman, but her and Evelyn are cut from the same cloth, and wonderful teammates to John and I, and wonderful teammates to one another. And yeah, we had a lot of fun together, and I hope that we're going to continue to have lots more fun into our ripe old age there, John. I'm one that feels like I'm getting older, as we go through life. And every time I see you, you look like you just keep getting younger. I look at your Facebook posts, and your time on your runs just keeps going down. And I roll out of the rack and I think, man, maybe it's not 𝘧𝘪𝘭𝘆 that's saying not today. Maybe it's me. I get after miles every morning, but they are a harder 4 miles a day than they were 5 years ago, man.
All good, brother. Go ahead, Ron.
Oh man. Well, I'm just, I don't know how much of this you can answer, but I know you were in Korea together, and I don't know how many times you've been out there, but I think the audience needs to hear a good soju story.
Oh yeah.
All right. So we have a friend of ours, mutual friend, that's retired in Okinawa right now. And,
oh yeah.
Took a trip out to the Northwest Islands, and we're doing soju shots at like 3 a.m. Everyone's a little bit tired at this point. You just want to go to bed. But doing the right thing and maintaining international relations, and Americans aren't going to give in. But Sergeant Major decides to fill his glass with some sparkling cider rather than a soju. We go to take the next shot, and the Korean recognizes the Rock Marine. Bubbles! I see bubbles! So we know that this ain't soju. And well, let's just say this. That's also how you get a nickname that you never get rid of. We have a good friend, Marine Corps Sergeant Major, whose nickname is Bubbles. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Oh,
awesome.
That's good. Yeah.
Hey, so Jim, we know, throughout your career, Evelyn has told us stories and everything. You were kind of a hellion coming up through the ranks, and to the point, I heard a story, and you may not have been a young sailor then, but a group of guys mouthed off to Evelyn, and you decided to confront them. And a guy says to you, "What, are you going to kick all our asses?" And you, executing prudent risk, just kind of said, "No, not everybody. I'm just going to kick your ass." And it kind of, yeah.
Just you, and I bet your girlfriends run after this.
Hey, so being that, and that's probably what we have in common and why we're such great friends. We were both hellions when we were younger. But, okay, people that aren't affiliated with the Navy, did Jim Honea, as a young sailor, ever have to swab the deck?
Of course, I swabbed decks, man. I painted decks. I've walked plenty of miles on decks. Yeah. That's the easiest of punishments, man. That pales in comparison with, the hellion to me was definitely something that was admired, and I think the leaders that I worked for anyway respected it just as much as I wouldn't say I want someone that's a complete hellion and running around all on their own, but I want people that work for me that got a little swagger to them. I want folks that mix it up. I don't want everybody that just kowtows to everything I have to say. And yeah, Fleet Master Chief, that sounds like the right idea. I know, man. I want some folks with some swagger that's willing to mix it up. And that was me. I was that guy. I think just like yourself, John, I was never shy. I wanted to get in there and mix things up and make things better. And leaders I work for encourage that attitude in me. I've never gotten rid of it, and it served me well to this point. As long as Evelyn puts up with it, I ain't changing.
I hear you, brother.
Oh, that is
well.
awesome.
Hey, Jim. Unfortunately, we're out of time here on the Ron and John Show, brother. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, and I know Ron's the same way. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come onto this show here. We needed to showcase the Navy because Ron and I have been out doing things with all the services, and we really hadn't had a look at the Navy. But you just reinforced what I already knew, that you are one of the best senior enlisted leaders in the Department of Defense, but more importantly, that we have the greatest Navy in the world and that our sailors are on point night and day, and they've got the watch around the world to make sure that the United States freedom and way of life is secure for infinity. So thank you, brother, for being on the show today.
Hey, man. Hey, thank you. And Ron, it was great meeting you. And you said it. You're spot on. It was a great hour. I can't believe it went by so fast. And always great catching up with you and Ron. Awesome to finally meet you.
Yeah, you as well, brother.
Environment. And, one of these days, maybe the Ron and John show will make its way out here, and I'll host you out here locally. And
yes.
Absolutely, we're ready.
Yeah. So thanks, Jim. Hey, Ron, you want to announce what we're giving away for our 30th show?
Absolutely. For our 30th show, we are giving away a signed e-tool. All you got to do is comment below here on the Ron and John show rocks in the next 24 hours, and then we're going to pick a winner. And it says here only in the U.S., so all 50 states. With that, again, big thanks to Jim Honea, and we will see you all next week at the Ron and John show.
Hey, but we got to remember, folks, we're coming live. We're coming to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. We're coming to Fort Polk, Louisiana. Right. We're coming to the Air Force Academy. The Ron and John show is going across the United States, and when COVID's
still
over,
rolling, baby.
You know, who knows? We might do a show in downtown London sometime. We'll see, though, brother. Have a great week, brother.
You as well, brother.
All right.
Safe travels. We'll see you soon. Boom.
The Ron and John Show is brought to you by Veterans Lending Group, where we can assist you with all your home buying and refinance needs. Since we're licensed in all 50 states, we can ETS, PCS, or retire wherever you go. Check out our education classes at VAHomeloanBootcamp.com for our free classes, and you can also visit our website at VeteransLendingGroup.com. Make sure to follow the Ron and John Show on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Hey, folks, we hope you enjoyed our guest this week.
Thanks for tuning into the Ron and John show, and we'll see you next week.
Woo!